more spark at 6 and 7, and they've got that young hooker, as you were talking about, distributing things. Now we're starting to see what they can do when they get the ball out and when they start spreading the ball. Anyone stand out for Catalan?
Remy Casti, 111 metres, Greg Bird, 106 metres, were the two strongest number-wise performers for the Dragons.
There you go. Okay. Lay crack. Right. Second penultimate game of the weekend saw Salford taking on Wakefield Trinity down at the AJ Bell, but it was Wakefield 34, Salford 24 in front of 3,277. Robert Hicks, the referee.
Yeah, I hope more get to the cup game. That's a sort of reunion of these two top four sides because they're playing great stuff. Wakey White got in touch with a review on this one, thanks for that. Said, what a great win for Trinity. They had to come out for a real arm wrestle of a game against an impressive and informed Salford outfit. 3 breakaway tries in the first half did damage for Wakey, with Lynn and BJB going in, I think he means Mason Kent Brown, going in from 80 and 100 metres. Salford stepped it up when Carney came on in the second half and scored a couple, but Wakey managed to hang in through that spell and put them to bed late on.
Yes.
The Trin train rolls on.
It does indeed, and I think this is the one I missed in terms of tipping this week. Two informed sides, two sides playing a good brand of rugby league, two very aggressive, well-drilled packs, and some exciting outside backs for both sides. It could have feasibly gone either way, really, couldn't it? But I mean, credit to Wakefield. They're another team that are going under the radar in a lot of respects. We haven't been criticised, but the rugby league media has been criticised for not giving Salford enough attention. I think you can lay the same claim about Wakefield. They do this season. They're playing a tremendous brand of the sport. They get good, aggressive rolls on early doors. They back it up with a very strong interchange bench, and they've got some exciting flair, electric paced outside backs to get on the end of things.
Yeah, Fafita and Hooby off the bench are doing...
It's phenomenal, isn't it?
Doing massive work at getting... And as long as they're starting forwards, doing a strong containing job, usually a bit more so. But do you see Keegan Hurst did a tweet about like something? It was something along the lines of like nearly 200 games and finally get your first start in Super League or something.
Yeah. No, I didn't see his tweet. But for Keegan Hurst, though.
But him and Anthony England, they're cut from the same like piece of granite, to be honest, when you look at them next to each other.
Monsters.
And that's a good start to then a solid platform to then bring like more explosive kind of in terms of looking to create things as well as bash people in Fafita and Hubie off the bench. To be honest, the difference in this game was that Trinity were able to pick off Salford's plays to get those breakaway moments in that first half, and Salford's execution was not where it's been at over the last 2 months. So there were mistakes in those patterns of play that led to either balls hitting the floor or being read easily enough to get intercepted or what have you. Because if it wasn't for those breakaway moments and Wakefield's goal line defence being really strong and Salford's goal line not being as frightened as much in the first half, given that the tries were pretty long range, that was the main difference. That set up the 16-6 half-time scoreline. Wakefield then defended the line really well at the start of the second half. Carney came on, kicked to 40-20, was involved in getting Bibby his second try of the game, and it looked like Salford might take control there, but this is where that depth of the forward pack. I mean, when you've got Brining and Carney on your bench, you're reduced to 2 forwards.
Yeah.
Whereas Anakin made his first appearance of the season, and he's a rough and tough fella. But their bench was, I guess, Arundel when he came on played forward. But for Fafita and Hubie, it was a bigger bench, wasn't it? For Wakefield, and I think that maybe would have told in this game on the back end of this spell of short turnaround times. Yeah. I don't know. That's what I think. And then young James Batchelor grabbing a try right at the end.
Great for the young man, very highly thought of, wasn't it? And it came off was it a Sam Williams kick as well that he found? So good for him. Impressive stuff for this young man.
Yeah, and Wakefield reacted well to losing Jacob Miller for the season, but we've always said Williams should be good enough to perform highly at this level. He just hasn't played he hasn't played as well as the other two this season, probably in that. But that's why you've got 3 probably equal quality kind of, or equal ability to influence the game. Sort of halfbacks, I suppose, that Wakefield have put together in their squad. Salford have got the same in their squad, got them all on the pitch at the same time at one point here, and it did influence things, but just they didn't have enough in the end. The crucial difference was Wakefield's goal line defence and interrupting that Salford passage of play that has ripped everyone else apart. But they were strong in it, and now they're the ones with the big winning run behind them.
That's it, credit to Wakefield. So what did the stats tell us then?
The metre numbers suggest a close game. Salford had more metres, but both made around 8 metres per carry. Salford had better discipline, 4 penalties to 6. But that's where the positives end for Salford. Their great low error run ended, losing out 13-10 in this one on that count. They had 1.7% worse, 94% team tackle success. And the biggest difference was the 9-3 breaks that Wakefield were able to create over their opponents.
There you go. Individually, who stood out for us?
Well, Mason, Caton Brown, returning to the AJ Bell, showing them what they're missing. 3 tries, 7 tackles, 201 metres, 3 clean breaks. Reece Lynn on the other side, 2 tries and 150 metres. Ash Gibson in the centres, providing Mason, Caton Brown with a try assist, 5 tackles, 140 metres, 2 clean breaks. Craig Hubie, 109 metres, and a note for the defence, Matty Ashurst, 45 tackles.
Great work from him. For the Red Devils, who stood out?
Jake Bibby, 2 tries, 130 metres, 2 clean breaks. He's always doing well this year when he gets a go. Craig Kopchak, 1 try, 113 metres off the bench for him. Chris Wellham, 164 metres. Junior Sow, 119. And Gareth O'Brien was influential with a try assist, 107 metres from the fullback position.
There you go. Final game of the weekend kicked off half an hour later than all the others on Sunday, and Castleford Tigers ran out 16 points to 12 winners over St Helens in front of 8,515. Chris Campbell was the referee.
Yeah, and Ethan O'Gorman says, get in, brilliant performance from a youthful Cass side. Trailing 12-4 at the break, they got momentum to power through and grab the win. Still shaking from that game.
There you go. Fatboy Rob says, in Darrell we trust. What a performance from 1 to 17. Massey and Lynch had their best games of the year. Gill scored on debut. Foster looked like he'd been in the team all year. Moores, Jesse and McShane gave their usual 10 out of 10 displays. Holmes scored a wonder try. Eden caught everything. Webster and McMeeton were unmovable, and the dog bother was solid. And Jai Hitchcock had Regan Grace in his pocket. If Carlsberg did Sundays.
Tyler Casvan said, a different kind of win, but still a win. No chance of getting the deck chair out after 60 minutes today. Saints deservedly ahead at half-time. We had to dig in deep to get the result, but we hung in there, defended heroically and showed the winning mentality to get over the line.
Yeah, fantastic. It was a calculated risk, wasn't it, by Powell to shuffle the squad around, but their performances over the season and their form has bought them the right to do that. No, I'm not saying sacrifice a game, but make some changes, rest some players, and potentially lose a game. Now, they've come out on top and they've got a win over this Saints team that have been improving. They had a big win over you guys in the derby, and then a big win prior to that at Magic Weekend. So Saints are no much going into this, and they're on a rest, and they're a relatively strong side out. So,
well, the only real shuffle up was bringing Lomax into the half.
Yeah, so
of injured French lad.
Theophage, yeah. So it is a calculated risk that might have backfired, but every credit to Castleford and particularly Darrell Powell for getting this shuffled side up for the fight. Because sometimes, I'm going to be careful how I phrase this, because they've been romping games, I sometimes wonder if they are up for it when it gets to be nitty gritty. And they showed that as a group.
So you kind of wonder if this was a game where he said, go on, Pack, show me you've got the grit.
Yeah.
In a way, like they're all writing us off. Well, it's your turn, Pack, to show him, and they kind of did.
Yeah.
Now, Mike McMeekan landed in from outside the 19-man squad, so that
helped.
But yeah, what was I going to say? Yeah, Lynch and Massey did put up big numbers, so it seems like they must have done pretty well. When the 16 points shows from losing. That's what not having Gale and Hardacre in this side does, and Shenton.
Yeah,
because they've been the three creators, really, haven't they? Down that left golden edge, the genuine now, the one golden left edge at the moment.
Yeah,
and so not having them in the side does restrict that creativity, and I think that meant they had to work hard for these scraps. Now, talk all you want about these short turnarounds and stuff, and yes, problems with that, but what won Cast this game was their resolve and their resilience in the last 10 minutes. Now, that isn't what you would have expected, considering they're the ones who'd
shuffled about.
Well, they're the ones who'd had the game on Monday, and Saints hadn't. And Saints had had since the Thursday.
Yeah.
So they'd had 10 days rest or what have you. And I know there were a few different names in for the Tigers, but still, a lot of them played at the weekend in one of the two games. So a lot of them had played a game since this Saints team had played a game. I mean, obviously Jacob Truman on the bench didn't play before. He was making his debut, young lad who they signed from your lot.
Yeah. Very talented young man.
But look, you've got to credit Tigers' resolve, and it shows that they've got everything now to really be the favourites for all the trophies like they are.
Yeah.
But
that shows it. That cements it for me, though. The ability to rotate like that and get the result and have that resolve, because they will have been under pressure from St Helens for decent portions of that. Fair play. They're deservedly the favourites.
The young lad Gill showed a bit of that. There's still mistakes in him as a young player on debut, but then bounced back and scored a try from that. So you've got to credit him for that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And like the senior players that were out there all stood up.
Yeah, fair play to them, deservedly so, and ensconced themselves even more at the top of the table.
Any real issues with Saints from this one, or credit to Cass?
No, I think Saints should have expected to win this. I think maybe they looked at the Castleford side and perhaps mentality-wise, maybe thought they were in for an easier afternoon than they got.
I just think they lacked that killer instinct in the last 20 of the games. Something that you've not seen from the never write off the Saints, as Sky always say.
Well, but it is something we've seen this season. It's not something we've necessarily associated with the brief, the very early days of the Justin Holbrook regime. But this shows you what he has to fix up, that inconsistency. And that execution when you're given attacking opportunities has definitely been something that you could criticise St Helens for over this season as well. So
I mean, not in the Wigan game, but
perhaps it's emblematic of what's been more broadly going on. Maybe the boost of the new coach is kind of worn off now, and now the work begins for Justin Holbrook. I think Saints could have reasonably expected to go out and been the favourites in this one, looking at the 19s. So credit to Cass for stepping up, and credit to their forward pack for working hard and grinding out the result. But St Helens, I think there's question marks over this performance from their point of view.
Mike McMeekan's try, that step, that line, that pace, phenomenal.
He's every inch the England international, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think he's going to have. I think he could be one of the stars of the World Cup as well. What do the stats tell us? Because it was late in the day for the stats, wasn't it?
Well, slightly incomplete stats for Cass, because the young bench player Jake Truman, his numbers weren't added at the time, and it seems like any player who Super League don't already have in the squad doesn't get on the website straight away. So we just from what I can see, it looks like Cass were better in many areas, but behind in average gain and team tackle success, which probably would level out the fact that they have more meters, fewer missed tackles. Fewer mistakes made and that sort of thing. Yeah.
So individually, then, who stood out for us?
Matt McMeekan with a try, 115 metres. Greg Minikin with a try assist, 123 metres. Nathan Massey, 169 metres. Junior Moores, 190 metres. Andy Lynch, 105 metres. That's the forward. That's the experienced forward pack that they've got there, doing what they needed to do. I think Senny Lefeu had a good shift too. Mark Percival, a try, 6 tackles, 113 metres. James Roby, 1 try assist, 68 tackles, 12 marker tackles. John Wilkin, 51 tackles, 14 marker tackles, no missed tackles. Although probably a couple of high shots giving penalties away, surely. Regan Grace, 134 metres. Alex Walmsley, 131 metres, 4 successful offloads.
Fantastic. So after 17 rounds of Super League, what does that do to the standings, Mark?
It means that Cass have opened up a 4-point lead at the top of the table. Salford stays second, though, with Leeds and Wakefield maintaining their top 4 places. Hull are just outside the top 4. Then there's a 5-point gap to Wigan, who are followed by Saints and Catalan to make up the top 8. Huddersfield overtake Warrington on points difference after that big win against Warrington. Both a point outside the top 8. Widnes are off the bottom for the first time since round 7, replaced by the Leeds Centurions and Tom. This round had the most errors of any round so far, and the last round after the Easter weekend as well had a lot of errors in that.
Player fatigue.
So people talk about like the injury concerns and that sort of thing. And look, the quality of performances is.
We've got some time. We've got some time out there.
To be fair, 2 weeks after, like in the middle of this spell, in the middle of those 2 games I've just rounds I've mentioned, there was a high error counts in a lot of those games too.
Right, there you go.
So
maybe they're just all tossing it off a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Super Brew predictions and Dream Team updates.